Quorum being present, the special town meeting will now come to order. Madam Clerk, has the warrant been properly posted as required by Mass General laws and the bylaws of the town of Granby? Thank you. Please rise as Select Board Chairman Mr. Sharnacki will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. For those of you who are new to town meeting, sitting in the front is our Finance Committee, our Select Board, our Town Administrator, our Town Council, and our Town Clerk. If you are a non-resident or a non-voter, please sit in the designated areas in the back of the gym. If you'd like to address or comment on an article as moved, please raise your hand so that I can acknowledge you. Wait for the microphone to come to you. Please stand and then state your name and address. Please limit yourself to one question when you are handed the mic, unless you ask me for permission for a follow-up question. And lastly, please do not direct a comment or a question to a particular member of town meeting. Direct your discussion to me, and I will forward it to the appropriate individual. I have been informed before the meeting that the motion under Article 1 has been withdrawn, so we'll be starting the meeting with the motion under Article 2. As such, the moderator calls on Kathy Keller-Reagan to present the motion under Article 2.
I move the town vote to amend the bylaws of the town of Granby, Volume 1, Chapter 18, Fees, Section 1, Town Clerk, by deleting the current fee list and inserting a new fee list.
Thank you. Second, discussion.
The town clerk fees are statuted according with Mass General Law 262, Section 34. These fees are collected and turned over to the general fund. They haven't been increased since 2003, 16 years. After comparing our neighboring communities, Granby has the lowest fees. This increase would bring us up to what our neighboring communities are charging.
Is there any questions or comments? Seamus, just please wait for the microphone.
Seamus Connolly, 21 Ferry Hill Road, Granby, Mass. Madam Moderator, if I think it is a good idea for the clerk fees to go into effect. Reason why, as you said, if every town clerk were to charge let's just say the minimum wage of what a current worker makes, we'd be able to fix the town's budget. We would have more money in the stabilization fund, and I think it is a great idea, actually. So I would vote yes, and I think that'd be a very good idea.
Thank you.
I take my time back, Madam Moderator.
I didn't hear what he said. Any further questions or discussion? I'm sorry, ma'am, are you a registered voter? Only voters are members of town meeting and allowed to talk at town meeting. I don't have a reason. I've been told that the motion has been withdrawn, and if a motion is withdrawn before the meeting starts, it is not up for discussion at town meeting. So we are on Article 2, the motion under Article 2. We will not entertain any more discussion on the motion under Article 1 because it hasn't been moved. Yes?
Rich Demaraki, Bachelor Street. Could someone explain why Article 1 was not voted on as common courtesy? Could someone explain who did it and why, so we would know the answer? Thank you.
Pursuant to legal advice, the motion has been withdrawn, and we are on motion 2 under Article 2, so we are not able to discuss the motion under Article 1. Because when a motion has been withdrawn, it is not on the floor for questions or debate or discussion. It's just not here. Order, please. I will wait until the crowd leaves. What? Is there a question under the motion under Article 2, which is on the floor right now? Mr. Nally.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Steve Nally, 31 Pleasant Street. Madam Moderator, I'm in support of Article 2. The town clerk does an excellent job in her office, and the fees are indeed extremely low, and they haven't been risen since 2003, I believe she said. So I strongly encourage the passage of Article 2.
Thank you. Do we have a question over here? Mrs. Tarazi? Wait for the microphone, please.
I'm loud. My question was, when is question 1 going to be going back on discussion?
Again, unfortunately, we cannot talk about any questions regarding Article number 1. We do not have answers for that. It is not on the floor. We are talking about the motion under Article 2. I'm sorry. Is there any further discussion on the motion under Article 2? In order for the motion under Article 2 to pass, it must pass by a majority. All those in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. All those opposed? The motion passes unanimously. The moderator will now call on Mr. Sexton to present the motion under Article 3.
Madam Moderator, I move the town vote to accept Mass General Law, Chapter 64N, Section 3, as amended.
Can I have a second? And discussion?
This allows us to, since it's been passed as far as marijuana, recreational marijuana in town, this gives the town the ability to collect the 3% sales tax on it. This will allow the town to collect the 3% sales tax on the recreational marijuana, the sale of it in town.
Is there any discussion or questions? Over here, please.
Hi, my name is Natalie Levrod. I live on 70 Aldrich Street in Granby. My question is just whether or not there have been businesses that have been approved to sell in Granby, or is this like, where is the sales coming from that you would collect tax from?
It's been approved to be sold in the town of Granby. In certain different areas have been approved through zoning. From my knowledge right now, there has been no application or anybody approved at this time to sell marijuana in town.
Further questions? In order for the motion to pass under this article, it must pass by a majority. All those in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. All those opposed? The motion passes by a majority. The moderator will now call on Mr. Sharnacki to present the motion under Article 4.
Madam Moderator, I move the town to vote to transfer from account 30-171-5801 Article Dufresne's Dam Repair the sum of $25,000 for the purpose of funding funding the removal of trees and woody vegetation at the Forge Pond Dam and Dike.
Second? And now we'll have discussion.
This article would fund the removal of the trees and the woody vegetation within the 20 feet of the dam and dike. This is being done in response to a certification of noncompliance and dam safety order that was issued by the Department of Conservation and Recreation Office of Dam Safety. It actually has to get done.
Thank you. Is there a question in the back? Can you stand up so we can see you? Thank you.
Paul Lucchese, 25 Lyman Street. Why can't we get our illustrious highway department over there to clean out the vegetation and the trees from around the dam? That's what we pay them for.
I understand that we're paying for that, for them, but they're actually consistently busy. The other thing is that the equipment needed in order to properly remove the vegetation and actually the trees near that close to the dam, we don't have that type of equipment in this town. That's why it has to go out.
We have a question up here.
Rich Demaraki, Bachelor Street. I may have missed it, but did you get quotes on this, or did you go out to bid, or how did you arrive at the 25,000?
It did go out to bid, didn't we? We got 3 quotes.
In the microphone.
It did go out, and we got 3 quotes.
Okay, and the 25 was the lowest?
Yeah, 25,000.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any further questions in the back?
Thank you. George Randall, 52 Taylor. At the last meeting that we had here, and we had taken money out of the Dufresne Dam repair account, I personally was kind of upset that we were taking the money out of the account. However, our town administrator advised me that the state has told them that we can't repair the dam at Dufresne's. So I'm all in favor of taking the money out of the account and moving forward. And accordingly, Madam Moderator, I'd call the question.
Okay. I think I'm going to ask for a vote right now anyways, rather than actually call the question. In order for the motion under Article 4 to pass, it must pass by a majority. So all those in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. All those opposed? The motion passes by a majority. The moderator will now call on Mr. Barry to present the motion under Article 5.
Thank you. Good evening. Madam Moderator, I move the town vote to transfer from account 30-192-5817, Article Demolish Aldridge Hall, the sum of $13,500 for the purpose of funding electrical work at Dufresne's Park.
Second. Discussion?
This, going back a little bit in history, the town took control of the park back in the 60s. One of the conditions was that all the overhead lines be removed. That was never done, most likely due to financial concerns. Well, fast forward several years ago, prior to me being on the committee, they made the decision that it was finally time to do something about the electric. They had received a donation and started the repair and removal with the donation. And the money ran out. So it sat in limbo a little bit, and now it's become a safety issue. There's two poles and boxes on the pavilion side and putting them underground. And that's been started, but again, they ran out of money, so it stopped. The second phase is to remove the poles and the high voltage line that actually runs on the other side over by the baseball fields, and it actually runs over the playground. So there's some concerns there. Now that, the electric company has agreed to help us with, take down all the poles and the equipment, but we have to pay, obviously, for the installation of the new facility. So that's what this money is for.
Any questions? Seamus?
Seamus Connolly, 21 Ferry Hill Road, Granby, Mass. Of course. I would like to know if we were to take these power lines down, on seeing that I help my boss run horse shows on during the spring, and we like having microphones with the equipment. Would this affect the horse shows that my boss Shayna has? Would this affect on a horse show where we have microphones and loudspeakers?
Yes, it would. Anything on the Taylor Street side, there would no longer be power over there right now. The cost is very cost prohibitive to run lines underground. So at this point, anything over there would have to run on generator.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that. How much would this cost the taxpayers in a percentage?
I don't know that. I don't have a quote. I just know that both the electric company and the electrician said it would be very costly. And we don't have a budget. We rely on donations and on the revolving fund for renting out the park. The money that comes in goes back into the maintenance. So we don't have extra money to work with at all.
Okay, so that is a yes on taxpayers, or it's just donations?
It's on donations and money that's generated from fees for using the park.
Okay, so thank you. That just answered my question.
Okay, just also as an update maybe, we are trying to upgrade the park, or at least keep it upgraded. It's an asset to the town. We are in the process of trying to get a grant to remark and remap all the trails. We also got a very sizable donation recently that's earmarked specifically for dog park improvements. So there'll be some changes coming down there, but it's, we're trying to enhance the park. They've done work. Again, I've only been on the committee a short time, but they've trimmed a lot of vegetation. They're trying to replace things that need replacing, et cetera. Okay.
I'd vote yes on it.
Thank you, Seamus. In order for the motion under Article 5 to pass, it must pass by a majority. All those in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. All those opposed? The motion passes unanimously. I'm sorry, the motion passes by a majority. The moderator will now call on Mr. Joyce to present the motion under Article 6.
And I have a mic over here, Lynn. Article 6, I move the town vote to borrow in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 8, Clause 5, the sum of $1,200,000 for the purpose of funding the extension of the water line from South Hadley down Route 202 to Finns Hill and Pleasant Street to Morgan Street.
Second. And now we'll have discussion. Jay, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Since 2008, we have known there have been water issues in the town of Granby. What we did with this particular one, there has been studies done here in 2008, and I'll close this, and we can come back. They want me to go through all these first, so I'm doing what they wanted to. There's another one here. This study was done in 2013, and we didn't want to spend any more money on studies. We have enough studies on this issue. So what we did is we put together a team, committee, whatever you want to call it. The Economic Development Committee led the way, and we enhanced and went through and brought these costs and stuff up to date with the new information. Let me put that one back down again, because I know I'm going to have questions to come back, but I'm just doing it the way they asked me to do it. Okay, there's that one. With the enhancements that's coming to Granby, there's two enhancements. The major enhancement is going to be Route 202. If people are not familiar what's going to happen to Route 202, Route 202 is going to be completely repaved from South Hadley to Belchertown. In addition to that, the Route 202 is going to be widened by 11 feet. 4 feet of sidewalks is planned for each side of Route 202 and a 3-foot bike lane. So there's your 11 feet. Now, what happens when you get imperious surfaces, such as roadways, parking lots, driveways, and so on? The stormwater itself cannot spread out and it becomes concentrated. It's not dispersed. And according to EPA, they define rainwater that falls on paved streets, lawns, parking lots, and sidewalks becomes polluted stormwater. The more impervious surfaces, the more stormwater runoff and the impact to receiving water bodies. Now, what's happening here in Granby, 1/3 of Granby surface is water, whether it's ponds, lakes, wetlands, or whatever. 1/3 is. So we have a naturally high water table. With having a high water table, we have two other issues that are mainly against us. The type of soil in Granby, on the reports that we quoted here, is not the best for leach fields. In addition, Granby has a lot of bedrock. You can't leach through bedrock. Now, Mother Nature has a natural filtration system. That is the earth. The earth between the surface or the bottom of the leach field before it hits the groundwater table. Now, the groundwater table, because of climate change, is rising. And We have that in another study here, put out by Boston, which we can go through, but again, when we did this at the open forum, we went through it, and it took us an hour and a half to do it. And they're not going to give us an hour and a half here, they give us 15 minutes. So that's why I want to get through these slides, so you people can ask your questions, so we can answer them appropriately. When we're talking about stormwater and runoff, and I will bring this one up here as easier, because this is where we are right here. And I'll bring my little guy over here. Right now, if we were to have rain, it would fall on the road as an impervious surface, and as you can see, it's freely to flow on either side of the road. So the polluted water, which is the storm water, is freely dispersed. Now, put in your mind that road with curbs on both sides, sidewalks on both sides. Wherever the stormwater goes, it's going to be concentrated. When you get concentrated, polluted water, it leads you to more issues. What we are proposing to do, and we already have an agreement with, which Granby has never taken example of, is to get water from the Quabbin Reservoir. If you look on the blue, which is phase 1 for the main water, that would be the $1.2 million to bring water from the Quabbin to Granby. It would come from the Nash Hill Reservoir in Ludlow, down West Street, Ludlow, East Street, Granby, make a left-hand turn on New Ludlow, then go into South Hadley, then come back up Route 202. All those pipes already exist. The pipe from Nash Hill Road to South Hadley, according to the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority, which was, they laid the pipes in 1951, those pipes are being scheduled to be replaced. At the intersection of East Street, Granby, and New Ludlow, Granby, there is already an outlet for a 12-inch pipe, which Granby has never taken advantage of. That's why we're only proposing phase 1 and phase 2 right now. The reason we want to do phase 2, the pipe on the Granby-South Hadley line is a dead-end pipe. When you get a dead-end pipe, you get stale water. If you look on the other end here of phase 2, that's Morgan Street. If you recall, a number of years ago, Waste Management was required to put in water for the residents of New Ludlow Road and for Morgan Street because the dumps contaminated the soil, the groundwater, thus the wells. That pipe is also a dead-ended pipe. Massachusetts Water Resource Authority, and when we had the meeting the other night, Jeff Sear was there from South Hadley, he's their water commissioner. And I don't know if Jeff is here tonight or not, but they don't like dead-ended pipes with stale water. So we could actually bring water from the Quabbin into the town of Granby and fix two problems at the same time. That is why we would end up creating a loop, which the water would come in on 202, make a right-hand turn into phase 2, right down here from East or Pleasant Street, then into Morgan Street, continue on down to New Ludlow Road, and make a complete loop. So that would stay fresh water. And that would give all the residents of Granby an alternate water source. Currently, Granby does not have an alternate water source. With the contaminations that we're seeing, both at the town level and at the individual level. And again, I can't give you the exact count at the individual level because it's up to the individuals to come forward, but individuals have come forward and stated they're putting everything from water softeners to chlorinators, and the new thing out now is to kill the bacteria in their water by way of, boy, I just forgot what I was going to, no, it's not, that's wrong. Ultraviolet light, sorry. Ultraviolet, see, I'm doing it without my notes, I'm trying to use my head. So ultraviolet light is the new way to kill it in the water. Now, how are we going to pay for it? Okay, we were looking at $1.2 million to do phase one. And that would come down on a 40-year loan from the United States Department of Agriculture at 2% for up to 40 years we could get. It would cost the town $3,634 a month to give you a freshwater insurance policy. Now, can the water stay only there? The answer is yes. But with Mass DOT resurfacing complete Route 202 with the sidewalks and pavement, they have told us that if we lay the water pipes down before they do the different segments, because Route 202 is going to be done over segments. Originally, when Mr. DeRocher and I went to the meetings, they said they were going to do it over a 3-year period from 2019 to 2022. Well, the last meeting we went to, it seems the state didn't get all the revenue it was expecting up, and they say, well, it's probably going to take us to at least 2025 now. That is very good news for us in Granby, because the longer it takes for them to do it, we can put in for grants every single year to help defray the expenses. We got the Mass Works grants, we got the Small Town Repair and Assistance Program grants, we also have the Community Compact grants. All of this would be initiated if you people said yes to this. Because if Granby does not make a commitment, we cannot apply for a grant. And we want to get this paid for as much possible by grants. In addition to that, the reason I put this sheet up, this is what we've done for energy on our green community for this year. The only reason I put this up is Department of Energy is telling us, based upon everything we did, which was almost $300,000 worth of energy upgrades in the buildings, and none of that cost you a penny, unless you want to count your state tax dollars, because we just went and got it and brought it back. It's going to save the town an estimated $34,886 a year, every single year. And that's not counting other things that we are doing today. For example, some of you may have noticed you're getting new streetlights. They're not the old ones. They're LED now. When the project is finished, and it's about half finished now, National Grid has told us that we will cut the energy usage on the streetlights by 2/3. And Granby has almost 100 streetlights. And believe it or not, each streetlight has its own account number. So we know how much goes there. So we're going from $3,600 a month on the loan to show you what we're saving here on the energy side, and we are going to be saving more on the energy side. But the big thing is we want to get into grants. Now, if Granby doesn't get this commitment, we can't apply for grants. And one of the reasons we decided to reverse engineer this job was, number one, you've already spent enough money on these studies to know we're having a water issue. Some people in Granby never will have a water issue. Some people in Granby already have a water issue. And with all this stormwater coming, which is considered polluted water, We can only anticipate and be proactive. And what we'd like to do on a yearly basis, as long as Mass DOT stretches this out, we'd like to come back and ask you, what would you like to do next? Anything? And if the answer is yes, we could move up 202 as far as you wanted to. And then when we get up to the end, wherever, if people need it on the left or right-hand side, we could do that. How would we do that? We would do that through a water commission, just like South Hadley has. They take the money they get in from the water, and they have their own commission. It's not run by the town, it's run by the commission. You would elect your own officers. Who? Only the people attached to the pipe, a water pipe, would be in the water commission. Nobody else would be in the water commission except them, because they're going to determine their own destiny. If residents have a problem and they need to connect to it, because honestly, if you go behind the highway department, there's 45 houses there that are connected to a common leach field. If that starts getting contaminated, that's 45 houses at once that's out. And we have other common areas in town. Most of us have our own private water wells, and we have our own private leach fields. But with Mother Nature's natural filtration system going away between the increase in the surface water and the increase in the groundwater, more and more wells are projected to go bad. Okay, then my 15 minutes are up. So that's why she wanted me to go through all these slides to show you the different studies that we did, and Lynn's going to open it for question. If we have to go back, we will.
So I'll open up the floor for discussion now. Are there any comments, any questions? Are you raising your hand? Okay, back there in the bleachers.
James Guzman, 16 Griswold. So if I understand correctly, we're going down Morgan Street to not have a dead end on Morgan Street. But if you're going up 202, you're going to stop at Finn's Hill and you'll be dead ended there anyways. So it costs to not go to Morgan Street.
About $1 million. If we were just to go from South Hadley line to Finn's Hill, it's the 1.2 million. We're planning on funding the extension phase 2 with strictly grant money. And how that works is the state likes to evenly distribute the grant money as much as possible. And the two programs that I mentioned, Mass Works and the Small Town Repair and Assistance Program, Granby's never applied for. So we go to the top of the heap for 2 reasons. Number 1, we got a known problem. Number 2, we haven't applied for it yet, so we haven't got our share. And each one of those grants is $500,000 apiece. Now, the Mass Works you can apply for every year. The STRAP grant you can apply for every other year. Does that help you?
It does. May I ask one more?
Sure. I don't care.
Go ahead.
Madam Moderator.
If the sidewalks are proposed to cause this massive issue, can we do without the sidewalks?
I would like to say yes, but the answer is going to be no. Because of federal and state laws, we have to put the sidewalks in. If you had gone to the public forum, and I don't know how many people are here, as far as I'm concerned, if we had the sidewalks and 1.5 miles on either side of the school for the kids, I'd be happy. But as we have sidewalks now that go nowhere, federal and state law says we have to put in for ADA, for the disability people. We don't have a choice. The state is coming through with that, and unfortunately, we don't have a choice. I will add a side note. The state is going to continue to plow Route 202 because it's a state highway.
Does that include the sidewalks?
Nope, we get stuck with that.
Thank you. Up front here.
Natalie Leveralt from 70 Aldrich Street. My head is really spinning about all of this because I totally agree that we need to take care of our water issue that is continuing to be a problem. I can understand where everything's going. However, I do know that South Hadley chlorinates their water, and if we're collecting water from South Hadley, we're going to have to pay fees to them.
That would be correct. We would have to pay fees for them.
And you talked a lot about what's going to happen. And so in this little piece, we're talking about 100, maybe 200. I mean, I'm throwing out a big number, I think, of people who are going to get connection to water. So we're paying a lot of money for a few people to access it. And if I were to get it over in Aldrich Street, we're talking millions, millions more. Maybe you're getting grants for that, I don't know. And then you're talking commissioner, and now we're going to pay a salary for that. And 100 people paying $65 every 3 months, that was my bill in South Hadley, is not covering commissioner and all those people and all those fees. So I'm not arguing that we need it. I'm concerned about the fees that we will have to pay or the taxes increase. My salary is not increasing at cost of living. So how can we afford it is where I'm going. I'm concerned about the price that we're going to have on our taxes with all of this idea.
Okay, we're trying to do this at the least cost possible. I'll put it to you this way. We know we have a water issue and it's not getting any better. And we know that DEP and EPA is not going to make their rules any less stringent. They're only going to get stronger. Do we solve this issue as a community, or do we say, everybody, you're left on your own? Because I called the Veterans Administration, and I got a list of 10 of the local banks right here. If you do not have a fresh water supply, they will not give a mortgage for your property. That's unfortunately the truth. So do we want to go forward as a community to fix this at the least possible cost? Or do we just want to say, everybody, you're on your own. I wish you good luck, but if you get a bad well, you can drill a new one, but there's no guarantee you're not going to hit the same water. I don't know what else to tell you about that. We're trying to do it the least expensive we can.
I'm going to have someone else ask a question first. In the back, we have somebody, and then Seamus, I'll get to you.
Anthony Serini, 3 Cedar Drive. About 25 years ago, I read the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission 1960 master plan for Granby. They were going to accept, it was proposed to accept the water line to go right from Belchertown, from Quabbin, all the way down 202 to connect to South Hadley. The town did not accept that at that time. The thing I'd like to find out from the panel is what would be the benefit to the commercial properties along 202 under phase 1 if they had water? Would we get any tax benefit from the businesses if they were allowed to have water for their business? And what is the impact on the insurance rates for ISO for the fire department if we do have fire hydrants in these areas?
Jay?
Okay, that's a good question, Anthony. I'm glad you brought it up because I missed it. Additional grants, because phase 1 is located in Granby's general business area, we can put in for economic grants for that area to stimulate business growth. Roughly, Granby has minimal business now. We survive on residential tax money. If we were to put water into phase 1 which we're talking about, which is owned general business, it already has sewer, and it already has natural gas. Businesses are looking for those three. Once you have those three, you people out there can decide who do you want to come in for businesses and what type. It'll defer the tax rate that you're paying today. And Anthony mentioned the thing about the fire department. Well, about every 300 feet, I'm told, there will be a fire hydrant wherever there is a water pipe. Once you get a fire hydrant, your home insurance policy goes down because you're closer to water. So that's another benefit. And I will also tell you, from talking to Mr. DeRocha, who's our highway department supervisor, he has a number of generators and pumps along that route that he has to maintain. If we had a pressurized water system, he could do away with that overhead cost and just do it that way. Again, we're trying to look at all phases and doing what's best for the entire community. So it's going to come down, and I'll say it over and over again. Do you want to do it as a community, or you want to take a chance and do it on yourself?
Yes? Hold on, that microphone's coming to you.
Hi, I'm Marilee Tromke. I have a home on New Ludlow Road. I'm confused. We do have a water source. We have the water that goes down New Ludlow Road. It's pressurized. The fire department comes. They fill their pumps from there. We also have a gas line that goes down New Ludlow Road. So I just want to make sure that you realize that there is one that goes through the town. It comes right through down East Street, turns, goes down to Ludlow Road, and goes right into South Hadley.
What I
And
stated...
Morgan. And it goes on Morgan, too, because of the dump years ago had added to it. Thank you.
Okay, I did state that the Quabbin water comes from the Nash Hill Reservoir in Ludlow, down West Street, Ludlow, into East Street, Granby, takes a left on the New Ludlow Road in Granby, hooks up with South Hadley District 1. And yes, Waste Management put in an 8-inch pipe for the affected homes on Morgan Street. I believe I already mentioned that prior.
Seamus?
Madam Moderator and members of the committee, I would like to say this. Our town has a chance to lower our insurance rates, to lower the mortgage rates of our homes. Why not pass up this lifetime of an opportunity? This would benefit not just our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. Do you really want to take the chance of not getting grants or not having stuff or not having low taxes in the future? It may cost you like $3,000 or whatever a month or whatever for a few years. But you know what I mean? That's life. You know, when was the last time we did this? 1960? The population then was much lower. We are at an average, I did some research. The population of the town at the time, according to demographics in 1950, was 1,821. Plus 71.5%. And the only reason that happened is because in the 1930s and 40s, because of World War II, we built Westover. We wouldn't have such a big population if it wasn't for that. I may be young, but I also know
Hey,
a lot
Seamus, keep it on point.
I'm saying if we vote yes for this, we will have a lot of benefits in the future. We'll have less taxes, less everything. We would have more money to save in our pockets.
Thank you,
Times
Seamus.
get tough. Thank you, and I give my mic back.
Question over here, Ms. Tarazi.
Dying because she doesn't have any good water. I think this is just something we should think about. As a community, we need to help all of our community members together.
Thank you. And then I'll have this woman right here stand up, please.
Hi, Lisa Petralia, Common Street. Jay, those are the first 3 proposed phases.
That is correct. Phase 1 is the $1.2 million, which we're asking for tonight. Then if you make a commitment, we can put in for grants. If you do not have a commitment, the grants will not be
Right.
funded.
Yes, I understand that. So
Okay.
is the intention that if you were to get beyond Phase 3 and be successful in getting consensus and building and getting grants, to complete the laying of pipe all the way up to Belchertown before you start connecting houses to the left and right where you've already finished putting in pipe?
No, as soon as the water pipes are in, if people want to pay for the connection, they can hook up freely. But nobody is going to be required to
Right.
hook up to the pipe, and this is not a tax increase, as you can see.
Do you envision something like a betterment fee, though, if the pipe runs past your street, but you choose not to? We might consider a betterment fee?
I haven't considered anything at this time. I mean, before we can distribute the water, we got to get it here first.
Understood.
And now I'm
Thank
trying
you.
to get the water here first.
I'm going to have Mr. LeBear from the Finance Committee speak.
Thank you. I'm John Libera from the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee asked Jay to come before us in a longer meeting than this to give us a fairly thorough explanation of things that were happening. I'd like to share with you, the Finance Committee recommends that you vote in favor of this. I'd like to share with you a few of the things that we thought about. You've heard stories about individual homeowners in town having problems with their water supply. That's certainly true. That does not make it a Granby-wide problem yet. We have to think of it in terms of different kind of time frames for what's going to be happening. We have the studies that Jay has shown us that show that the groundwater is rising in Granby. It's going to be made worse by these improvements to 202 that the state wants to make. So there's no doubt in our mind that we're looking at a real long-range problem in Granby. By long range, I mean 5 years and out. There is no short-term, long, big problem in Granby, but there are problems in selected areas. Well, what we have is we have an opportunity to get in front of this. You're not presented these opportunities very often. They're rare when they come along, but it's really, I think, a good idea to think about getting in on this in the beginning to take care of it while we have the opportunity. The opportunity is that this paving is going on around 202. They're going to replace 202 and repave the whole thing so that we have the opportunity to put in this initial phase of these pipelines in along 202 without having to pay for the paving of 202. All we have to do is pay to put the pipes in. If we don't do that now, we can still solve the long-term problem in the long term, but it's going to be very, very expensive. Just the cost, you should know, of everything going up every year. We have small increases. We have a 2.5% increase in property taxes every year. That's not going to cover the cost of doing this. So we encourage you to think of this as being not something that we're doing for today or tomorrow or for next year, but to take advantage of this 3 to 5 year opportunity that's presented us with the repaving of 202 to put in this groundwork now to save ourselves enormous headaches later on. Thank you.
I'd like to add one thing, Lynn, before the next question, if I could. I forgot to admit when I talked about Mass DOT, they have what's called the 5-year rule. The 5-year rule is when Mass DOT hires a contractor to do paving, that contractor has to guarantee it for 5 years. Once that is guaranteed for 5 years, don't think you're going to get into it, because you're not. If you are, you've got to go to Mass DOT, get their permission, get their inspections, get their drawings, all at your cost. So the thing of it is, get it in before that. Because if we have a problem, hypothetically, let's pick the school campus. What happens if that well becomes contaminated? That's all our school system at one place. What are we going to do?
Comment up here.
Hi, Len Haplich, 9 Phillips Circle. Thank you, Jay, for this excellent presentation. And I live in relative proximity to the dump and also Westover Air Force Base, which who knows what they dumped years ago. And I have some conservation land behind me, and I can see that the water table is coming right up in my own yard. I'm starting to get concerned, obviously, about my septic system and my well.
Can you put the microphone up to your mouth, please?
I'm sorry. Now, we have representatives, Eric Lesser and everything, has been working on this end of the state. And you're starting to see, if you're watching the news, that we're getting more and more grants. Jay's been working effortlessly to get grants for the town. And with business needing water, we get some tax revenue there. With the green community, the money we've saved comes back in. And when you start figuring out these grants, there's a good chance that it could net zero on our taxes. And I understand your concern, right now too over that, but with what's been saved just in the green community alone, it's paying for a good part of it, and it will continue to, especially streetlights. There's a tremendous amount of money saved just there alone. Plus maintaining the buildings, getting them running much more efficient. So a lot of work has been done to save the town money. So even if this costs what you say it will on a yearly basis, monthly basis, divided out through the town, and with what we've saved, it probably will net to zero. I wonder if you could elaborate a little more on the amounts.
Well, if you came to the public forum we had on the 29th, this question came up. So I took and I can do it for you too if you want, or I can just tell you, I can take the $3,634 and divide it by the 2,400 households in Granby, and it came out that each person in this room, out of their current tax money, would be paying $1.73 a month. That's what you'd pay, $1.73 from your existing tax money to pay for this project per month. We need to get the water here first, people, and then you can make decisions where you want to go and who needs it and who has the problems. And again, I'll say it again, do you want to fix it as a community, or do you want to leave everybody out on their own to do their own? And we all know it's going to cost $15,000, $20,000 if you need a new leach field. I don't know what a new well costs because I haven't had to do one, but if somebody here does, those costs, and again, there's no guarantee you're going to hit different water once you pay to drill it.
So I think we've heard a large range of questions and comments. So unless you have a comment that is different from what we've talked about already, I'm going to move the question. So we do have a few more people, and they're different than what we've talked about already. All right, I'll ask you first.
Scott Leveralt, 70 Aldrich Street. I'm just curious if anybody has spoken to South Hadley in regards to tying into their water mains, because it is their water mains. And if so, these 3 phases will be South Hadley Water Department customers, correct?
In the initial phase, you are correct. And it would be more cost beneficial these people to be South Hadley, because now we don't have to create a water department, a billing department, and so on. But eventually, when we get through phase 3, when we can pipe in water directly from the Quabbin, then it would be beneficial to us to think about, do we want to open our own department? Because we know when we make payments to South Hadley in the water, there's certain overhead costs in there. Do we want to bring it home to ours and we manage it ourselves? Or currently, people in Granby do get water from Fire District 1 over on New Ludlow Road, Morgan Street, and part of East Street. Fire District 2 is out on Route 116 and so on. And we'd like to bring all these people home at some point. So, again, all we're trying to do is giving you the best we can at the lowest possible cost. And I don't know how we can get less than $1.73 per month. Because that's what the person asked for. We figured it out. For anybody that was here at the forum, you can tell them what I'm telling them because you were there, because the lady asked.
Thank you, Jay. We'll have this, one more question right here. Yep, no, not you, Miss Nally, the guy behind you, who hasn't spoken yet.
David LaPlante from Bachelor Street. The biggest polluter on 202 is the state. According to Mr. DeRocha, they put 5 inches of salt per year. Why aren't they paying for all these problems?
Why what?
Why aren't they paying for the problems here?
I cannot answer for the state. All we can do is file a complaint and see what they have to say. Because we are going to have more problems with this stuff coming down, and you are right. Our highway department puts down less salt where it's required. The state comes right through at a stet, and they just dump it. And I'm just being frank. It's the truth. There is a problem. There is a problem. There's been a problem. There's been complaints made. But we're Granby. We're one of 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts. It's hard. We can make all the complaints we want. But I can tell you that if we want to join the MWRA, if you say yes tonight, Senator Eric Lesser and Representative Dan Carey have already drafted the legislation and will file it. It is up to us to make a commitment before anybody is going to move forward.
Thank you. I'm now going to move the question. In order for the motion under Article 6 to pass, it must pass by a 2/3 majority. So all those in favor, please raise your cards. Thank you. All those opposed? So the motion passes by a 2/3 majority. The moderator now calls for a motion to dissolve the special town meeting. All in favor? Thank you. Have a good